Welcome to yet another Warcraft commentary and all that good stuff by Purebe, who is me, the host. Today we are going to be taking a look at Game 3 from the ZOTAC number 256 finals. The epic showdown between Thu and Lucifer. Our contestants today, the players, you know, screw it. I don't know where I'm going with this, I just woke up, sorry. Spawning in the lower left, I guess we could call this the lower left, as purple is the human Thu, and spawning in, I guess, in the top left is the gray undead Lucifer. Again, we're seeing relatively standard builds here. Nothing too much out of the ordinary. Now, this is a very good spawn for Lucifer. In fact, this is the best spawn that Lucifer could have gotten on Twisted Meadows against a human. It doesn't matter if Lucifer spawned here and Thu spawned here, or if Lucifer spawned here and Thu spawned here. The idea is that Lucifer, right here, wants to be able to get a jack on this creep camp. Because this is probably, hands down, the best creep camp for the humans to go after for their first creep. Now, as you can see, this Archmage is about to pop out, and this Death Knight is not. So this is a very fast build. Very fast build for humans. And as you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 militia are going to come, as well as this, the Water Elemental and the Archmage, to creep this. He's going to begin this creeping before
forces are under attack.
The Death Knight is even out. So even though this is the best possible spawn, Thu is simply too fast at creeping this to get jacked from it. However, this is the fastest spawn for Lucifer to get to. He can get to this creeping faster than he'll be able to get to this one or to this one. So in that regard, it's still the best spawn for him to have. And even though he cannot necessarily creep jack anymore, because it was something you used to be able to do, but humans began to get very fast at it, you can still come in and coil any peasants that got low. Or, you know, maybe sometimes snipe a water elemental. However, Thu creeped it pretty much perfectly, so there were no peasants that were low, and he pretty much didn't let him get a water elemental either, I don't believe. Yeah, so, you know, that's pretty good from Thu. But again, it was pretty much the best spawn Lucifer could have asked for. Lucifer is not doing a completely traditional build here. We do see the ability for him to get fiends if he wants them, but for now we are just seeing a bunch of ghouls, as well as a Nubian Tower and a tech, and he still hasn't thrown down his second ziggurat, so he cannot get a fiend right now, even if he wanted to. He doesn't have the food.
A player's forces are under attack.
He only has 2 free food. Thu, on the other hand, is over here, pretty much preparing to take an expo. So we'll see. This is, again, a very fast tech, really, from Lucifer, which is something that we did see in Game 1 and Game 2. We see pretty fast techs from Lucifer. One of the things he really wants to have is that Lich Out when his opponent has just got done creeping out his expo. And I think that's the timing he's been kind of shooting for in every one of his games that he's played so far, and of course I'm just referring to the ZOTAC finals, not, you know, all of his games, but that seems to be about what he's been shooting for. Now that's obviously quite a push, and it's not quite happened. I'm not entirely certain that it's going to always be possible. In this game, obviously it's not possible, but the idea is that even though it may not be possible, and here we see Lucifer just kind of, I think what he was doing was scouting around, trying to see where Thu is, because there are so many places the human can go on this map to creep. And in this case, he just came here. But he did manage to elude Lucifer fairly well.
A player's forces are
and well
under
enough
attack.
that he was able to creep this camp out without any intervention from the undead until the creep camp was already complete. And it looks like that peasant is probably not going to die because the skeleton is gone. The skeletons are dead. The Death Knight is run away. So we may very well not see, or may very well stay alive, I mean. But it was cool. We did see the scout ghoul. I missed it, but the scout ghoul came around here And the Death Knight came around over here, and he was just checking to see
forces are under attack.
When he got to that shop, he said, "You know what? He's not in any of these spots." And he looked, and he could see what was going on over here. Probably, and that's when he TP'd it to the staff, bought the staff of teleportation, and TP'd to the ghoul right there. So that's what happened. In this game, I don't believe he actually wanted to go for Lich, and even though I said that, what I really meant was his second hero, rather than necessarily the Lich. But it was the Lich in the prior two games. In this game, it is the Panda, and we're going to see that coming here. And he's going to see how much damage he can do with the Panda and the Death Knight with a bit of harass. He's going to have a double rods of necromancy. He's probably going to use that sacrificial skull, and he did. He's going to use the sacrificial skull. So, we're going to see, this is going to be quite an interesting thing. This Town Hall is actually really close to dead. He might actually stop it from going up a little bit. Wow, he does. That was quite a close call for him. That looks completed on my screen. Of course it's not. So that was really well done. That's actually nice because it's quite denying the sword. He wasn't able to really keep it from going by delaying the creep, but as you can see right here, he's doing a pretty good job of simply delaying it post-creep and doing quite a bit of damage to the peasants in the meantime. And you can see, as you can see, it was like 2 ticks from the peasants to get that up all the way.
Player's forces are
we're going to see maybe him pick off another peasant here. He doesn't have a coil or a buff, but he does. I don't think he's going to manage to. There's too many equipment and water elements as they're attacking those skeletons, but it wasn't bad. We do see 2 more skeleton warriors coming up. These are probably just going to be used for scouts, because running them back down here would probably be suicide without getting anything done, but if he comes around over to different locations on the map, he'll probably be okay with them. We do see, in fact, a relatively fast tech to tier 3 for Lucifer, which is pretty good idea if you do go Panda second for 2 various reasons. One, you get extra additional experience at tier 3. You get 15% additional experience at tier 2, and then another 15% additional experience at tier 3. So, Panda is a very experienced
player's forces are under
attack. This was really everything that we see when it comes to heroes in the undead versus human matchup, but especially so with the Panda. So it's definitely good to have extra experience. But more, we also need to see a Lich, because the Nova is absolutely fundamental in this matchup. Frost Nova is very core to pretty much every strategy that I've ever seen that is a long-standing, viable strategy against human as an undead player. So even so, he does need that Lich, which he'll get at tier 3. Let's see. We have a gargoyle
under attack.
The reason that I believe he's probably going to get a gargoyle, if he does, and it looks like he canceled it, so he's not actually going to get it, that he might have misclicked it, or he might have thought... excuse me. Whoops, sorry. Sorry about that. One reason to get a gargoyle on this matchup, or on this map in particular, is because a human can come with a Zeppelin right here, and come back here and harass your Echo.
Player's forces are under attack.
And if you have a gargoyle, you can pretty much shut that down. When Lucifer saw the human army right here, he may very well have said, well, in that case, I know he's not intending to come over here and harass. I know that he's going to probably try to keep people or fight me, so I don't need the gargoyle. It may very well have been a misclick, but that is definitely there's a very solid strategical reason for also that exists. So I would assume that is more likely than it being a misclick, especially considering that he canceled it pretty much as soon as he saw that human army, which he wasn't going to get harassed by a Zeppelin. And also, one of the things that we did see in the other games I discussed that dynamic where Lucifer was willing to attack an expo and deal with the expo's towers and peasants while he traded his base essentially. With a Panda set, he doesn't really want to do that. So he really doesn't want to be harassed. He's not going to counter-harass. And so again, one more solid reason for getting a gargoyle in case that kind of harass is coming, because without the gargoyle, it's very, very difficult to deal with such a harass. And the reason that he doesn't and the reason the dynamic is different in this game is because the Panda at level 3 essentially can deal with any number of towers very easily. Breath of Fire simply decimates towers. So even though you see all these towers, well, a couple of well-placed Breath of Fires, you know, a couple minutes that essentially a Breath of Fire siege would simply lay waste to the entirety of the tower base there. Although we do see destroyers out, we do see, since there's only a couple of towers here, and everything I just said is in a sense kind of almost strong, because we do kind of see that dynamic happening again where Lucifer is actually attacking the base while trading with his base. I think it's a little bit different in this case, because you're going to have the Lich TP back till the finish, and once Lucifer takes out these towers, he's probably going to go directly back.
A player's forces are under attack.
So not quite the same, but kind of the same. At least I guess it depends on how you look at it. But yeah. What's going on here? The human's really not doing too terribly much as far as damage. He does, of course, kill a couple acolytes. And he could have definitely done quite a bit of damage if he got that cigarette down. That would have delayed the replacement of the killed acolytes, but since that's not the case, it's not a huge amount of damage. They both use the TP, so that's kind of essentially equalized. The Mountain King is out, and we see these towers manage to go back up. So if Lucifer hits this immediately again, then he could probably potentially take out everything here that is important from the peasants' towers and perhaps even the people. Without too much of a loss, really. He's going to go ahead and repair this Noob Tower because, of course, you really do want to have that Noob Tower repaired.
The town is under
might
siege.
be waiting here in his base for two reasons.
A player's forces
he doesn't
are
really
under
necessarily
attack.
need to have that army over here. He's full army. He has the destroyers, and he has 2 heroes. That's pretty good. And the Lich can kind of stay here and wait to buy an orb, perhaps, when he gets the money, or perhaps even to help, you know, deal with a minor harass. This is slightly more than a minor harass. This is level 3 water elementals, several footmen, a mountain king, and some mercs. So this is a little bit more than what I believe Lucifer was expecting.
The town is under siege.
And as you can see, he's begun to run back. Okay, well, I'm going to get to about my units. And this is a little bit unfortunate. The Lich has become trapped back here by this tree. So it's not a very ideal position for the Lich. Especially considering how close the DK is. It's going to be very close because the Lich is taking focus fire and it's close, but it just wasn't quite quick enough and the Lich goes down. Unfortunately, the Archmage decides to TP out. Several acolytes have been killed.
A player's forces are under attack.
Remade. Over here as you see, TP2, there are still 3 destroyers here, and he's just going to pick off some equipment, or maybe not. But he's just dealing with the fact that he can go ahead and dispel these summons and take additional damage and get extra XP for the things. So he did go ahead and pick off the footman and I believe 2 water elementals. He does, each destroyer heals 25 health and 50 mana from every dispel. So, and that's per magic effect they get in their dispel. So for 1 water elemental, which is that one effect, if they had 2 water elementals, they would get 100 mana and 50 life. I'm pretty sure those are the values. But anyway, either way, so that's why you can see it's not such a big deal to have those low HP destroyers against the summons because, of course, they can just heal a little bit. He goes ahead and picks off the Goblin Shredder. Dude tried to run it away, but it wasn't quite quick enough. He's going to go ahead and attempt to run away these Militia. Now, Militia are pretty fast, so they probably will get away. Destroyers aren't quite as quick, I don't think, as far as chasing is concerned. Although
player's forces are under
speed
attack.
here is faster for the Destroyer than the Militia. The problem is that you have to attack. They don't have a very long range. 450, they have to be very close up onto it. So even though they might have been able to pick them off, they might have even got all of them. They would have had to run pretty far. So, and it would have taken quite a bit of micro. So. But it maybe is needed elsewhere. I'm not entirely certain. He might have just wanted to say, you know, I'm just going to keep him right here on this keep. I want to try to kill the keep before it gets some kind of arcane symptoms or something. Although I'm sure he probably assumes that
player's forces are under attack.
Food, noticing that he's most likely going to lose his keep here, and I'm assuming this is why he's throwing down a 3rd arcane symptom. You usually don't do that. But if that keep does die, he will not be able to rebuild any more arcane sanctums, and it's pretty cheap for him to go ahead and throw up one more. Plus it protects these towers a little bit extra. And this becomes a much more important gold mine now that this is kind of inaccessible to Thu. He's going ahead and plopping down some towers here.
A player's forces are under attack.
So I think he's doing this again just because he doesn't want. If he does happen to lose, you know, one of these arcane sanctums, which is very possible given the fact that there is a high-level Panda on the battlefield at this point. With a high-level Panda on the battlefield, tower building damage, the buildings you really can't repair them that well because just between the Nova and the Breath of Fire, the peasants will all die, and the buildings take quite a bit of damage. And you know, this is kind of a
player's forces are under attack.
Breath of Fire range. Here's another particularly possible one where he stands right here or somewhere over here, like, and just kind of Breath of Fires in that general direction to hit those three towers, to hit this, to hit the town hall of the peasants, and it's probably possible that Argh would get hit as well. So that might be why I put one over here. That might not be it. He might just think, well, I'm going to need to be able to mass up my army very quickly, and that's why he's getting the third arcane single. I can't really tell you for sure. That's speculations. He is creeping quite a bit. That mountain is level 3. The Archmage is level 5. Lucifer recently with Death Knight. Level 4 and he does indeed go down. So who is at the advantage at this point in the game? That is a really hard question to ask. Even harder to answer. It's not exactly a hard question to ask, but very difficult to answer because the hero levels are pretty close to even. But we don't have a tree hero for the human, and that is the only reason that I'm saying that I would go ahead and peg Lucifer at the advantage, because they are both on one base right now. However, as you can see, Thu is going ahead and putting up his second expansion, which will put him to 2 base again, because this one is no longer operational. You know, and also level 4 Panda is incredibly powerful against tower groupings, especially like this. I'm not entirely certain why Thu would have built those like that, because if the Panda stands over here, you can get all of these towers in a Breath of Fire. And if he stands up here again, you can get all of those, more or less. And so that's not really the greatest positioning of towers against the Panda, I don't think. But, you know, it might be optimal for some of them that I haven't really considered. Either way, as you can see, now player's force has scouted this. He knows this is happening, so he's saying, okay. In his head, he's thinking, what can I do about this? And I believe probably the smart move is to come over here and creep this red, because that Panda is very close to level 5. And in fact, if I was Lucifer, I'd probably consider moving my pitch that away from this to try to get this Panda to level 5. I don't think he would get level 5 off of this, but that's just what I was thinking. Not that this is a bad move. I think it's a good move as well, just to creep it. So he does get incredibly imbalanced item. Death of Silence, which is incredibly swell. We have Saber's forces to call it to dead base with that. One of them goes off, and he's going to go. Oh, the second one gets killed slightly before exploding onto these ones. Would have killed this one and would have taken out, probably would have taken out the Spirit Tower as well, forcing a teleport back to base. That Black Citadel is taking quite a bit of damage, and an immediate silence going off from the Staff of Silence, and we're seeing a bunch of focus fire onto the Mountain King, and the Mountain King does get past the potion, and he does use it, but is it going to be enough? Yes, it is. So he bolted the DK and ran away. With the DK bolted, you don't have the aura, so chasing is a whole lot harder. And so that was really well done by Thu to not lose that Mountain King there with the passing of the potion as well as the bolt. So good job. But also quite good job by Lucifer for targeting that Sapper, not letting him blow up. If he had blown up, that would have been quite devastating to those Ziggurat's right there. So that's good. Lucifer, he's power creeping at this point. He's just going ahead, and I think he's really trying to get to level 5 before he takes on this. At level 5, Panda, Breath of Firing will simply decimate these towers, especially given that they're only Masonry level 1. Although, I'm not sure that actually the Masonry counts against Breath of Fire. I don't think it actually does. Well, I guess it does, or does it? I don't remember. I know they made a change recently to Masonry in the last patch or something. I'm not exactly sure. And I don't remember if it removed the
player's forces are under attack,
or if it just nerfed it. I don't remember. For Masonry. I'll look into that and try to get it. Oh, and the Saber does go ahead and go off and kills one of the Ziggurats, and gets another one very low, and you have the Death Knight here, but how much is it going to do? Who knows? Another ziggurat test go down. And now Lucifer is unfortunately feet capped, and he only has what appears to be 3 acolytes, so that's definitely not an ideal situation for him. So he's going to go ahead and do this, put down another ziggurat, and once that ziggurat is remade, he'll be able to afford the food to remake the final 2 acolytes that he needs to get back to 5 acolytes. But for now, he is running a little bit at a disadvantage because he doesn't have the 5 acolytes. And I believe that might have been some Zeppelin harass. Yeah, that was a Zeppelin harass. And the reason I figured that was simply because now we see these destroyers kind of coming around here patrolling, looking for that Zeppelin. Because for all Lucifer knows, the Zeppelin is over here, just waiting for Lucifer to walk away so he could harass the base again. And again, we're seeing these spirit towers, which has been pretty hallmark of Lucifer so far to deal with the human harass. Or to help deal with it, because obviously the towers alone simply aren't enough. But between the towers and probably smart moves Lucifer's done a pretty good job of handling all the human harass that Thu has thrown at him. At this point, we do see Thu going ahead and placing up more towers down here. So just kind of securing this position for an expo, for a town hall right over here, whenever he feels like it's necessary or he decides to go in. And this is actually, since this was his key, Thu said, you know what, I need to upgrade something else, so I'm going to upgrade this one. And the reason that he upgraded this one instead of this one, which looks a little bit more defended, is simply because this one is going to become expendable soon. Once this goes away, this gold mine, which is 3,500 gold, it's not going to be nearly as important as this one over here, which has, 10,000 gold left in it. So he decided to upgrade this one. As far as these towers are concerned, they're not really all that helpful right now. The only thing that these are going to do, I believe, in this particular case, unless Thu comes to defend them, they're just going to give Lucifer a fair bonus. Because you do, of course, get XP towers. It's not a huge amount in this sort of situation, but it definitely counts. It definitely helps, especially when you have a level 5 Panda. Because if a Panda hits level 6, he has one of the best ultimates in the game. It's just amazing. He basically is invincible doing the ultimate more or less as long as you're careful. Because you get the 3 different guys. And he does a whole lot of damage. Gains Wind Walk, gains Cyclone, gains a taunt.
The town is under siege.
And Immolation, so it's quite crazy. The Fire Elemental, if you don't know, his ultimate is that he splits into 3 mini pandas, with the Fire Spirit being a Fire Spirit, an Earth, or a Fire Panda, an Earth Panda, and an Air Panda, Lightning Panda, perhaps. And basically, they just do a lot of damage. They have a lot of life, and in order to kill the Panda when he's like that, you have to kill all 3 of them, which is very, very difficult to do. Again, because the Lightning one can simply Wind Walk away. The Earth one has an absolute crapload of HP armor. And here we do see actually the Panda going in for this. I believe that might be all of what he got from killing all those towers, that XP. It looks like so maybe if he killed some peasants as well or something. But yeah, all of that has all come from Thu's army, because after level 5 in Warcraft 3, of course, creeps no longer have your experience heroes. Although, if you didn't know, if you do creep and you have a level 5 hero there in your creep, then they will take up the experience as if they were able to gain it, even though they won't gain it from creeps. So, interesting little fact. Although pretty common knowledge, so most people probably know that. But if you don't play a lot, or if you just aren't someone who knows a lot of the little stuff about Warcraft 3, you might have learned something. So right here you'll see he's going to probably run that Panda away, although he might not, simply because he's quite close to level 5 on his Death Knight, not too far off on the Lich. So he's not too as concerned about getting the XP as much as he is concerned about killing the creeps very quickly. And the Panda does do a lot of damage because he has level 2 down
Player's forces
which gives him a fair decent crit and some evasions. We do see quite a bit of focus fire going on his Archmage, and the Archmage goes down. The Archmage goes down, and that was a little bit unexpected. He did have really good items. He had TP, and I believe he had a big HP or a gold pot or something. Either way, so Thu loses the Archmage. That's going to be quite unfortunate, because that's pretty much going to give Thu what he needs to destroy all of these towers, which is a little bit of time, and that's all he needs. So we do see coming over here and buying stuff, Well, he had a TP, which is still enough to avoid death, but I guess he still wanted to draw him out of the Either way, as you can see, just in that little bit of time it's taken him to revive, go over there and the tavern back to Archmage. All of these towers died. That is the power of course, the combined power of Destroyers and Panda at level 5. Who does see them with his Breath of Fire. This is especially disconcerting for Food because this is his castle. This is the tech, you know, and after this goes down, then it's back to Footmen and maybe Rifles for units, and whatever he can produce out of the Arcane Sanctums, which I believe is only Footmen and Sorceresses if you don't have a to I believe that's Breakers to require that. I might be wrong on that, but I believe that's the case. Either way, it's definitely a really unfortunate thing for Food to go ahead and use a castle regardless. Always using a castle is bad. It's a security structure. It does have level 3 masonry. It has a lot of so masonry definitely has increase certainly. So whatever I said earlier. Probably either the armor. It doesn't really matter, but see a little bit of this. Oh, okay. The Acolyte might have actually been able to kill that Breaker without the Archmage. I'm not entirely certain. It would have been close, but Thu said, you know what, I'm not going to risk it either way, so I'm just going to teleport in with my Archmage.
The town is under
and bring
siege.
my rest of my army over here. Thu does not want Lucifer to get an expo. If Lucifer gets an expo up, this is game over for Thu. So Thu really needs to prevent Lucifer from getting up an expo. But at the same time, Lucifer is saying, I really don't want Thu to get up another expo. We have seen an absolute insane amount of towers in this game. And in fact, this expo is about to
A player's
run dry,
forces
so
are under attack.
Thu is going to need to get this expo running. He's going to need to defend it because that's his last hope. It looks like these aren't really going to be much to really go ahead and try to put out an expo here again. Probably not going to be what happens. I think he's definitely going to go there. Oh, sorry. We did just see the Paladin going down, and by that we didn't see it. I was kind of spaced off somewhere else. Sorry. So yeah, here we see Lucifer keeping a TP. It's really helpful because he doesn't want to get base raced. Especially because he's going to be unsummoning buildings here and there just for
player's
gold,
forces are under
and
attack.
maybe to try to put up an expo or something. But you can do that as undead, but you do really need to make sure that you don't get based, which is a constant threat in the late game. Although admittedly not quite as so badly when you just have a couple of Breakers and an Archmage and a Mountain King. Not a lot of damage, and they're not going to kill your buildings very quickly, but it's still something you need to be concerned with and on point about, and so that's why I have the TP. Do you see Lucifer coming over here with his Acolyte? I believe it's his only Acolyte right now, although he could remake another one if he needed to, and he's probably already got this maybe queued up to build an expansion right here, I'm assuming. So let's see, yeah, you can tell.
The player's forces are under attack.
I figured he was close. I thought he had 500 a second ago, and it was showing a little under 200, which means that was queued up, so that was that. Here we just see, actually these peasants are running from over here to over here, and we see that Lucifer's actually took off quite a few of them. That's not good for Thu, because he needed those to help build this and to help mine, and so, as well as to help repair, because repairing is going to be an inevitable requirement with the level 5 Panda. It was almost level 6, he is incredibly close. That's a couple of peasant kills and a whole lot of level 6. A couple of tower kills and level 6. So there we go. You can see he's down to 3 XP from level 6. The Lich is taking a bit of damage, but he does get coiled, so he's okay. And the Destroyers, I believe, dispelled the Water Elemental, which gave a level 6 to the Panda, so that is quite good. However, the Panda, of course, does not have enough mana right now to cast his ultimate. And there's a cast time on the ultimate, in fact. And if you go to cast your ultimate and you run out of mana, say like you get Arcane Towered mid-cast, then you won't get the ultimates off. So that is one risk of having the Panda ultimate, really, is that it'll do that. And if you do that, I'm not entirely certain, but I do believe it uses the cooldown as well. I don't want to be quoted on that because I'm not entirely certain, but it seems to me like that's the case. We do see Lucifer saying, okay, well, now that you're coming over here with your Archmage and your Breaker, I'm going to say this is the best time for me to come in here and try to fight your Expo a little bit. It actually picks off the Mountain King, which is really unfortunate for you. Picking off the Mountain King, he might even go for this Paladin here and pick off the Paladin, but there's quite a bit of damage coming in from these towers and the breakers. Actually, what just happened, you may or may not have saw, was what I just was talking about a second ago. The Panda went to cast his ultimate, but he got Arcane burned, which every time you get hit by this, of course, it burns your mana a little bit, and he ran out of mana, so he was unable to complete the cast. So that was unfortunate. If he had managed to get that level 6 cast ultimate off, he would absolutely have been able to finish off all of these towers right here without any problem, because the level 6 ultimate Panda is very nice. We do see these units are over here, and they're not over here, so we kind of have the heroes down here, and now they're going to run this way. The Paladin and the Mountain King have died, so only the Archmage is currently alive, and this Expo is still standing. It's not you know, it's seen better days, but it's still standing. It's not too badly off. This army has also seen better days, but also this army is doing pretty well, especially when you compare it to the human army. So, how much longer is Thu going to be able to hold out for? I don't know. He's invested so much money into towers this game, and not into army. He really needs to start getting army in order to really compete here. So I'm not sure, and he doesn't really have a whole lot of choice when it comes to army, because he doesn't have a keep and he doesn't have a castle. He's just got 2 town halls. So, you know, it's like he's trying to buy time. He needs to get tacked up so he can make units, but is it going to be enough? You know, I don't know. Again, as I've always said, you know, how important hero levels are in this matchup, and you know, we're seeing, well, in fact, we're seeing 665, which is just an insane amount of hero levels. And here comes the Panda ultimate, and as you can see, it's very, very strong. 1700 HP, 5 armor on the Earth Elemental, 68 to 82 normal damage on the Fire Elemental, and the ability to walk and pretty much get out of combat fairly easily on the Storm Elemental. So I keep saying Elemental, I mean Panda, but yeah. Oops. And that was the taunt, and the taunt just says, hey, everything that gets taunted, you attack me. So it switches the attack focus of the units that get hit by it. And that's good because, you know, with 1700 life and 5 armor, he's very tanky. And here's that Windwalked Elemental, and here he comes back in at pretty much full HP, despite taking all that damage. And doing a fair amount of damage as well. So Lucifer is coming in here, he's focusing down the Archmage immediately pretty much teleports. Where is he going to teleport to? He teleports over here. Paladin is very low, the Archmage is very low. They don't have any way to stay alive if they get nuked. However, the good side for them is that all the undead heroes are pretty much out of mana, so that's not too bad. He's not doing a bad job, he's doing a pretty good job holding this off, in all honesty. I kind of expected by now that that Lucifer would have finished this off. But those towers and just good micro has kept the game. Incoming this fight is a pretty good fight for Thu, I think. That's pretty much all of the nuke damage we're going to see right there. So if with proper micro around these towers, he'll be able to do a fair amount of damage to these heroes, and in fact he does. And he's pretty safe because, again, as you can see, there's just not enough mana to nuke. And in fact, he's going to pick off a tower, or a statue, and he might pick off a destroyer. He picks off a destroyer and a statue, and I think he might have picked off a second destroyer. I think Lucifer might have had 4 destroyers. Either way, he's down to 2, and he's down to 2 statues. So, and again, that's it. Lucifer does not have anything beyond that at this point. He does not have an expo. So actually, Thu isn't too badly off. If he can kill the statues, and he kills those 2 remaining destroyers, he'll be in a much, much, much better position than he would be otherwise, but it does remain to be seen if he's going to be able to do that. It was a little bit careless of a move by Lucifer to move into this sort of position back here and split up his army with his heroes and destroyers and statues over on different sides, as well as taking the fight without having anything really, speaking of. So, we'll see if that is important. But again, if Thu can get it down to just the DK Lich and Panda, even with the Staff of Silence and the high hero levels, it might be just enough to actually hold out long enough really for his stuff to kick in. And we do see him getting into this Zeppelin. So it looks like he's maybe going to go for another Zeppelin. So he might even come over here and try to creep out this Gold Mine. And if he was able to do that, that would be an amazingly excellent thing for him to do, simply because there's an amazingly good item drop right here. In fact, you get 2 item drops from the dragon. It's really good. However, it's quite a risky thing to do. In fact, it looks like he's abandoned that plan. And he's going to come back up to the fight because Lucifer is simply going to kill everything otherwise. Which decision would have been better? I don't think he's going to be able to do much at this point. I think it's too late to come over here. I think he probably should have stuck to the plan, trying to keep that island, but we will see if this was worth it or not. Lucifer is going to walk away just a little bit. He does get the Panda actually in this round. The Panda immediately uses the Invul Pot, and unfortunately, if you hadn't had it on it, holding position, so when Lucifer attacked the Paladin, it forces the Paladin to move away because he couldn't attack, because the way the game engine works is if you get attacked and you cannot attack your attacker, you know, if you can't see it or if it's invulnerable, your unit automatically moves. So that's why whenever you get a surround on a hero, you should always hold position so that if they use the Invul Pot and hit you, it doesn't mess up your position. However, would it have mattered? I'm not sure, because the Paladin did die very, very quickly, and I believe he was kind of part of this round. He was the top part of this round, so either way, maybe not a huge deal for Thu, but unfortunate, because that might have been his only chance. If he had managed to kill the Panda, that would have been amazingly good for him. As you can see, what's left, at this point, I'm not sure that there is a lot Thu can do. He cannot, oh, that's a lot of damage. And the Archmage goes down to the nukes, and GG is called. So, it was very, very close match for a lot of the game, but of course, you know, with the Panda and the hero levels, I would say that Lucifer did have the advantage for the majority of the game. So you could consider that one-sided. Although I do think Thu was on the verge of being able to pull it into his favor for quite some time. So that was quite an exciting game. And again, a bit of a long game, 36 minutes, but stay tuned and stick around for Game 4 and 5. And what a great series so far. Alright. See you in Game 4, everyone.